Hey, just checking in with everybody, making sure you guys can hear me. It's what I always do. That's what we do if you follow along with these. Making sure you guys can hear me. Generally, that's the case. And I'm going to let a few more people join before we get things going. You know, it's always my discount double check on these type of deals where we're figuring out if the audio works, because I don't want to get to yammering and you can't hear anything. So we'll see how that goes. But as you can see, we are talking about snow. And I'm going to make sure you guys can hear me before things keep going on. I'm going to let a few more people continue to join, as I can see. That way, once we get into it, I can answer as many questions as possible throughout. And so that's one of the main things we're going to look at here, which I think you guys will be able to hear me shortly. So, like I said, we're going to make sure that everything's all good here as we continue to wait for that over the next several hours. But like I mentioned, you know, our main story here ahead is the fact that we're going to continue to focus on all this. What's up? Can you not hear me? What's up? Too loud? All right, I'll do it. If I can get it to work on this thing. Just a hair. All right, thank you guys. Now I think we're probably caught up with where people are mostly, and I'm kind of loud, so we can turn this thing down. Here we go. Well, first and foremost, weather impact meteorologist Garry Frank with an update. Actually, I can move this card around nicely now, so we'll try to do that our best here, but I do like to have it look like this, so we'll do that for now. So what's changed today? Now that everybody's kind of joined, I see you guys right now on Facebook, and I'll answer your questions at the end. I also have the text line open that you guys can text as well, if that's easier for you. 314-425-5355. I'll leave that on the bottom of the screen. I'm going to bounce back and forth between all of those right now. First and foremost, what's changed today? Well, you know, we've got more moisture that's feeding into the system. And obviously more moisture equals better chances for snow and more snowfall production, right? But there are still a lot of things that can come into play as we track this the next few days. Now, we're still tracking the storm system a little bit further north. Now, believe it or not, the hurricane hunters have actually sampled this storm and looked at it. And that's one of the reasons that we've seen better data. It's also coming into where we see these higher resolution models. Hurricane hunters sampling this information in the spot in the Pacific where there's obviously no weather stations, you know. As Lance has mentioned on Outside the Forecast, even everybody's phones kind of has some sort of information, and you have a lot of these things. Well, all that data feeds into these models, and then that gives better information. So that's kind of how we can get better information 3, 4, 5 days out as opposed to 1, 2 days out, give you guys better time to prepare. We do have more model consensus as a result of that. Days ago, you know, if you've been following along with this, the American model said it wasn't going to snow at all, and we had a lot of pause on that for a lot of reasons. One of mine is the fact that, you know, you look at that model in July and it says it's going to be 120 here every day. That's certainly not the case. Okay, so that's one of the reasons among many that we won't get into about why that is. Now, when you look at this at the big picture, right now, here's where these two systems are as we're talking about what's happening outside. You know, we've got a couple of these systems right now, and one of them being the fact that this is where it is right now. As we look at satellite and radar, I've got this on a big picture for you. You're able to see where this is. We've got storm number 1 and storm number 2. These are two pieces of energy which I think that are relatively important in this sense right here. And because of the reason that this is the one that they sampled here, that's just off the coast of California. That's the one that's going to ride this pipeline. You can see where the clouds are moving. That's where the upper level wind is as well. Storm system number 2, which really isn't a system, it's more of a piece of energy. Now, when you have these pieces of energy on their own, and if we're talking about rain, it's not as much of a big deal. When you're talking about when they combine with very Arctic air, it is a little bit more of a big deal because they all interact with each other differently and the time that they arrive. But they're all going to provide lift in different senses. And as they provide lift and they get more energy and they also provide more moisture into this serious Arctic air mass, that's when it becomes a problem. You have significant air right now which continues to climb, and this is one thing that we're looking at as a good example. It's 9:15 on Thursday. I've been looking at these temperatures all morning long. They've gone from 7 below to about 20 below in some cases, right? So they're coming down as the sun is coming up. That tells us that this is a serious Arctic air mass. That's what we're dealing with tomorrow. We're not going to get that cold tomorrow, But that's the kind of thing that's going to be working its way in. You'll see that here. It's already working its way into North Dakota, South Dakota, and southern Minnesota. So that is the key factor for us. For the next few hours, I have no issue whatsoever. We're not going to see much in the way of a problem. We have temps in the upper 30s, and I think, honestly, we'll get to about 41 degrees for a high in St. Louis. Now, tomorrow, this is another one of those days where, on paper, the high temperature is about 28 degrees. But that has happened at 12:01. Temperatures continue to plummet. As those clouds separate, we're going to see more of that push through. And watch at 4 o'clock in the morning. Temps now at 20. Keep that in mind from a standpoint of where we were yesterday. And, you know, we're seeing temperatures that continue to fall into the single digits, right? So that's the same air mass that I just tracked for you in northern Minnesota, right on the international border. It's going to keep us in the single digits all day long. Friday's a very cold day, but in terms of precipitation, Friday it's not a problem. We're not going to see any issue on Friday. Our main story and our main weather impact still is the fact that we have problems here from Friday now to Monday. We've extended it, not because it's going to snow on Monday, but because we have fresh snow, clear skies, calm air. Temps are going to plummet, and there's no way that anybody's going to be able to clear all the roads when we get this much snow. Temperatures near zero for a lot of the time, not only in the afternoon, but the morning. And I think in the afternoon, we're not going to be as close to zero, but for a majority of the day, you're less than 7 degrees. Heavy snow is still possible, and the duration of the cold air event is going to be more of a problem. That's what we continue to look at. Now, from a futurecast standpoint, let's look at some of this and talk about some of the forecast challenges that we had and, you know, what we've been talking about yesterday, right? So I mentioned the fact that we had this dry air that's in place from the northeast. You'll see that here. What we're starting to look at a little bit more as late in the day, Friday, you'll see snow on the other side of the state. We'll focus on that in Missouri and the Kansas border here. But as that works its way in through mid-morning Saturday, I think, and I'm going to pause this because I didn't have any pause points during the show. I don't want to pause this right here because that's what we can do on the stream. Let's pause it at, let's just say 10:45, right? We still have this dry air that's in place in central Illinois, and it's coming in right here. The leading edge of this, by 10 o'clock, it may not actually be reaching the ground. That's where the leading edge of this actually evaporates as it reaches the surface. So that's important because what we're going to see is the fact that we have the snow that settles in by mid-morning. Now, it may be snowing in Rolla at that point, but as this leading edge hits that dry air, what it's going to do is, let's say this is where the snow is falling and it doesn't reach here. Well, as it reaches here, it's going to start to saturate this column of air down here, and that's where all this has set room to fall. And that's what we're going to see as we move forward throughout the rest of the day on Saturday. So as I push this a little further here and pinpoint what we're going to see, you know, that's the main story from what we're going to continue to focus on here because of the fact that we have through mid-morning, through 1 o'clock, you continue to look at the opportunity for all this snow to finally reach the surface, 1:15. Now, the main difference from yesterday, as this system has pushed north and as we have a little bit more moisture, you'll notice that, yeah, we have these darker shades here that are a little bit more. And that's where we're going to see more of the snow throughout the day on Saturday. And I think this is just one of the models, but they're already starting to come together. And I'll show you another one throughout as we look throughout the rest of Saturday. But I think really Saturday's travel, as I just kind of scan through this, you'll notice you'll start to see a few more colors where it's snowing much harder from Carbondale, areas south. Right now, that's where we're seeing the heaviest snow at this point through 6 o'clock. And from a sheer duration standpoint, even if the leading edge of that snow doesn't reach the surface till lunchtime, you've still seen it snow for 6 hours, right? So that's why we start to look and pay attention at some of these snowfall totals to go up a little bit. Now, do I think we're going to see some breaks Saturday night? Yeah, I do think we'll see a few breaks. You'll notice those clouds or those colors are a little different here where they're not as dark or deep of a shade, but we'll run into pockets where the snow starts to pick up. And that's where I think we're going to see more of an issue here as we start to see opportunities for snow throughout, and this is going to scan pretty fast. But I want to watch out. I think overnight, Saturday into Sunday, things will still be on the dicey side. And where you'll notice is this particular model continues to show that it's snowing, and I think that's going to be the case, there are some breaks where there's some drier air. So we may get breaks from light to moderate snow where it tapers off to flurries and then pick back up to moderate snow. And that's where I think it's important because if we do that, then that's where the snowfall totals continue. What's a little bit different here is on Sunday, we're going to see kind of the back edge and wrap around of this entire system as it pushes out of the area. This is where I think we may continue to pick up some additional snow, which could really ramp up total-wise, because even through 1 o'clock, you'll see the back edge of it finally pushes out. But notice those areas to the southeast, south and east of 70, pick up more snow. You've had a consistent duration of where there's more moisture, and you're going to continue to see these higher snowfall totals. To me, that's why we still have the issues that we have in terms of the snowfall. Our expected snow through Sunday evening, my most recently updated snowfall total right now, and you can see, and I'll put this on there for you so you can see on your phone a little bit better. I've got many spots between 8 to 10 inches, right? I think this is a good baseline to start for us in terms of the amount of snowfall that's possible. I think that there are some of these tweaks that could be made on both sides, either going up or going down as we start to fine tune how much that dry air settles in and how much the second wave on Sunday really adds to those totals. If it moves out quickly, we may be closer to this number. But I think from a sheer duration standpoint and a snow production standpoint, keep in mind the dry, cold air produces snow a little bit better. And this is one thing that I wanted to share with you that we really haven't talked about because I got about 3 minutes to talk on the air. And so that's why when I show you what's going on, and I'll get back to this map if you're going to be able to look at it, but I'm going to let you look at it while you're on a full screen while I'm thumbing through looking for this, because I wanted to kind of illustrate why it is an important snow production standpoint, why it is a little bit more difficult, or why it's pretty easy for us to produce snow in that regard. And I know I've got it in here because I typically kind of go through some of these things, and I can kind of get some of these snow ratios. So let's look at this right now. From a snow ratio perspective, and I'm going to pull this back out on me real quick so you guys can see this. From a pure snow ratio perspective, right? And we're going to be much colder than this, so it doesn't mean that we're exactly going to see. This is why it is important to say, hey, we're getting more moisture in the area, because the more moisture we get, obviously, you know, that would lend to more snow just by default, right? But here's why it's important and why yesterday I'm not afraid, but reluctant to give snowfall totals, especially when we didn't have that added data, because there are a lot of things that go into this. And this is one of them here as we talk about the specifics. Because right now, we talk about an inch of water. Well, if it's a wet snow and temperatures are above freezing, you know, you've seen those wet snows where it's really compact, that type of snow. Well, you may only see, you know, you may only see the ratios be about 5 to 1, where you're going to get 5 inches of snow for every 1 inch of water, right? So those are the different things. The standard, or what we would call close to standard, when you would just be from a model output standpoint for a lot of these models, would be from a 10 to 1 ratio. When you're around the freezing mark or just a little below it, you're going to get 10 inches of snow for every 1 inch of water. The complicated part becomes when we start to see colder air start to settle in. The snow production rates can go up where you get an inch of water, you may get 20 inches of snow at lower temperatures. And of course, we're going to be very cold as well. There's going to be a fine line between that snow production where we get 15 to 1 ratios or 20 to 1 ratios, somewhere around there. I think it's very possible. So that's why you see some of these model output statistics show you all these things. And so that's why it's our job as we're trying to draw this forecast here of this snow, where you're looking at the expected snowfall. Well, you know, I can look and just kind of show you, I want to show you, see if I can pull one of these up here for you. That's why when we're looking at some of this stuff, it's important because, you know, a lot of these things, from a model output standpoint, I'll leave this on a full screen for you. I think I should be able to get this up from a standpoint of why I'm always talking about this specifically. Let me look at this for you real quick. And I would have tried to have this up for you, but I've been on the air for 4 hours, so I want to talk about this a little bit. Let me find just a raw example, right? And I don't want you to think, so when we're talking about, let's see, I think this may work, but if it doesn't, I'm going to give up so I don't sound like I'm yammering to you. When I'm looking at snowfall ratios, when I can talk about some of these, let's see, snowfall accumulation maps that are totally crazy. You know, you look at some of these, I don't think this is going to work the way I want it to, but I'm going to try. If it works, then great. If not, I'll give up. But or at least looking at the snowfall totals and hopefully able to find one of these for you. I typically try to, the way I broadcast this to you, I can kind of type and show you a web browser, and I've got to be able to do it in a manner that is easily viewed for you on your computer. I don't know if it's going to show up the way I want it to. Probably not. It may be tough, but I might be able to do it. Might be able to do it from a very raw standpoint. Actually, it's not too bad. I'm going to do this from a raw. It's not as bad as I thought it was. So if I show you, let me show you, for example, look at this output for snow in some of these things where we are looking at one of the models where you can see right here, some of the models output all this as an automatic, and that's another thing that we look at where you'll see this mid-level of the atmosphere where there's a lot of really dry air that's in place. And that red and green as they're apart. I know that popped up as a sounding for you, which I didn't really mean to do, but I'm going to pop this back out for you now. Like I said, we're popping back and forth, and I got 5 minutes to show me St. Louis, or 10 minutes before I'm going to cut loose for Show Me St. Louis, and I want to get to some of your questions. But regardless, when we're trying to find that fine line between what the snow ratio is, that's what we end up looking at. And so when we combine all those things, that's essentially why it is difficult sometimes to provide the right map. And also, a lot of the times when we don't have data, before we get some of these things, the forecast shifts, and all of a sudden, you're getting a lot less. And then, you know, when you're predicting 12 inches of snow and you only get 4, then that's a big deal because obviously, as you can see, there's all these emergency managers, counties, cities, and states that are coming together to try to make sure that everything's in line, because if not, then things are a problem. And so that's where we are right now with this. So like I said, that's where we are in terms of the timeline that I'll share with you right now. Let me show you, let me check in with some of the text line. I'm going to check the text line first to see if we got anybody on that so that I can make sure you guys are dialed in, and then I can go right to that. Check in to see if anybody has texted in with any questions to see if I can explain. Somebody asked, John here with All Seasons, he said once the storm comes, it will continue. Are there 2 phases of snow? Are there any breaks in Festus? Good question, John. I don't think that there are too many breaks. I think there are going to be breaks in intensity. The more breaks we get, the obviously less snow we're going to see at the moment. But to me, there's not too many breaks. If we're going to take a break, I think there may be a small window at some point on Saturday in the early morning hours, maybe between 3 o'clock, let's say 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock in the morning, where it's not as intense, but I think it picks back up again. So that's the time to watch right now. Somebody at 314578 says we're expected to land in St. Louis at 10:20 a.m. on Saturday. Should we expect any problems? Unless you're getting ripple delays from the airlines, I don't think you're going to have any problems there. I think you're going to be just fine at that point. So good question there. How much snow do we anticipate for early Saturday morning? No snow early Saturday morning. We won't have any problem there. 548, what would be the best time for plowing driveways? I need to go downtown on Sunday evening around 6. I think the snow generally tapers off at that point, but plowing driveways I think is going to be in waves at this point. To me, that we're going to see this in waves where by the time you plow the driveways, and this is definitely snowblower type snow. This is, I would say, snow that you could use your leaf blower on, but there's just going to be too much of it for a lot of that. But it's definitely going to be something like that. What is the current start time for the storm? Let's call it around 12 o'clock on Saturday at this point. It may snow a little sooner than that for some of us, but let's call it noon on Saturday. How much snow do you think we'll get in Old Monroe? I think somewhere between 8 to 10 inches at this point. We could see things change a little bit as well. When will MoDOT and IDOT be out? Those are questions that are going to continue to be answered. I think the issue with MoDOT and IDOT being out is simply it doesn't, I know we like to give them a hard time, not as much IDOT, but MoDOT, and I mean we as a general public, right? Like not we specifically. There's no way, there is just absolutely no way that they're going to get this clear It doesn't matter how hard they're working consistently. It will be how clear are the roads based on how covered are the roads with snow, right? It's incredibly cold. It's a wind-blown snow, so any light wind is going to blow this back on the roads. And it will continue to snow, and it's cold, and the pre-treatment doesn't work when it's this cold as well. So a lot of variables that go into this as well. How much snow from Highland? Thanks. Daniel, thanks for the question. Looks like Highland's still in that 8 to 10 range. That's what I look like at this point. How long will it take until the weather improves for the melt-off? Man, I think Monday afternoon there will be some improvement, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, as temperatures are above freezing or close to it, we have more sunshine, and they can get the roads cleared off. It's going to be in phases. That's the way I see this right now. How much will we see south of St. Louis? You're going to be closer to the 10-inch range. I think depends on how far south you go, but really 8 to 10 inches is a pretty wide base. I've kept that up behind me. Like I said, I think this area has some higher potential. That could stretch a little further north. We'll see how things go. We're getting new data right now. Meteorologist Lance Blocker's on the other side of me. He's crunching some numbers as well. He's going to be in with you at noon, and that's why we continue. And I'll be on it and Show Me St. Louis. I'm not sure that we're going to get into the nuts and bolts on Show Me St. Louis, but I will be there. Potosi, what weight are we looking at? It's a very dry snow. Good question. 573-631 in Potosi. It's a very dry, powdery snow. This is going to blow around. It's going to be like you're at a ski resort. This is blowing around, exactly blowing around. And as we continue to focus on that, let's see. I'm going to check on some of the Facebook comments as well. I would say, let's see what's happening on Facebook as well. Let's check on this. I want to check on my people there before I've got it. They're going to boot me off here because I'm talking still. Looks like I'm going to have a lot of questions here as it loads. Let's see. Okay. Let me see if I can get on here and check on things for you. I'm trying to make sure I can see your comments, but there's the live chat. You know, Facebook is always more difficult here. I know it's, for some reason, that's lovely. My internet doesn't want to work in here. I think it's because the IT guy just walked in. I think it's his fault. Not operator error. No, it's not me. What is it, restart? You just restart the computer? Isn't that what they all say? No, I'm just kidding. Why hasn't National Weather Service issued a winter storm watch? They have issued a winter storm watch. I think right now the Weather Service are trying to coordinate with the other offices to try to figure out exactly who they want to include in that winter storm warning as they're waiting for some of this data. That's one of the things that they do. They're very careful about that because what they do, and it signals a lot of other things. When we get into a warning, emergency managers, they all switch on, all those things. They have to think about this. For me, I've got to think about, let's try to prepare you guys the best that I can as I'm looking at the forecast. They got a lot of a heavier lift on some of that stuff as well. How about flights on Monday? I think flights on Monday are good. Do I think there are going to be power outages? There may be a handful of them. It really depends. But this is a light snow. It's not going to hang on trees, which then go on power lines. That's always a thing. That was a question from Amy. Is Imperial going to be in the 10-inch range? Christy asked that. I think that's a possibility. Do I think the Monday morning roads will be okay? I do not. I think you're going to expect a lot of cancellations and delays at the very least. Because for one, it's going to be incredibly frigid. And it's just, they could work all day, all night. But as long as it keeps snowing on Sunday, until the roads are fully clear, even the back roads aren't going to be clear. And this snow is going to be dry, and it's going to compact when you drive it on, and then it's going to refreeze. It's a real problem, I think. So that's what we have right now. Let's see, snow accumulation in Florissant. Could it possibly miss Troy? I don't think anyone's getting missed with snow completely, but there are going to be different levels to some of this as well. East St. Louis, Bill asked how many inches. I think we're up to somewhere between 8 to 10. There's a lot of spots between 8 to 10, as you can see behind me. So that's kind of where we are right now. Warrenton, same thing. Alicia, you're somewhere between 8 to 10. Birthday party at 1 o'clock in St. Charles. Should we reschedule? At this point, those things are up to you. I think the first part of the day, you could go to the birthday party. If it lasts at 4 o'clock, you're done. Then that's where it's going to get a little slower to get home. I don't think it's something crazy at that point. But the longer you're out later in the day on Saturday evening, Saturday night, as the snow continues, I think things are getting worse. I know that's what we're going to continue to follow up on as well. And I'll answer a couple of more questions. Farmington, Tammy asked about Farmington. That's a good question. I really think you're going to be on the higher end of things, closer to a foot of snow. I really do. That number could go up. I'm still looking at some of the model data. Like I said, meteorologist Lance Blocker is next to me. We're walking on that. Do I think the school districts will close on Monday and Tuesday? I think Monday is a possibility. Tuesday, there will be a handful. They really will. I know how this works. My husband is supposed to drive to Alabama Sunday morning. How bad of an idea is that? I'm not sure it will listen to me. It's a terrible idea. 618-580-508. Here I am talking to your husband. It's 9:49, and I have to end this stream very shortly because we got the studio coming up for Show Me St. Louis. It's not a good idea to drive that way for a lot of reasons. Even if it doesn't snow that hard here, it's going to snow worse somewhere to the south, and then you're going to be stuck on the interstate. Don't go there. So there's one. O'Fallon, Illinois. That's probably a good way to, like I mentioned, what about driving for medical personnel? I understand. There's going to be times, I'm never a guy, I'll never tell you not to do anything. I think we figured out that just doesn't work in today's world. But what I can tell you is, if you're going to do something, because I'm going to have to come to work at some point, right? So I got to get here. So that's why I never say, stay home, because we're going to come here and we're going to tell you what's going on. The problem is, it's going to be difficult to drive, and it's not going to take me, it normally takes me about 30 minutes to get to work. It's not going to take me 30 minutes to get to work, especially Sunday morning. It's going to take me about an hour. So I want to make sure I have enough gas, and I want to make sure I have clothes in the back in case it gets cold and I get stuck on the road, stuff like that. If you're going to do it, be prepared, and don't rely on the emergency responders to come get you, because they may have a hard time getting there as well. It takes them longer. Those are the biggest problems that we run into as well. So, like I said, and then I'll follow this up with Leah said 8 to 10. Is this for real? Yesterday said a dusting. No, we did not. That's one thing that I will tell you. We did not. In fact, on this very stream, we said at least 4 to 7 inches were possible, 4 to 6 inches, and we have not said a dusting. Now, it has changed over the last few days, absolutely, and that's why we try to do these updates to give you the most information, so you know what we're thinking behind the scenes before we blast it out with a map like this. So that way, if I'm wrong, then I can say, hey, this is why I was wrong, or this is why I was right. All good. So like I said, we're coming up with Show Me St. Louis. So I'm going to end this stream here at 9:51. We'll have more streams throughout the day. We'll have up to date, and we'll keep you posted. We'll see you guys later on.